first time that I recall ever knowing about gay people, homosexuals, those kind of people, queers, was when I was about 6 years old. My parents had taken me to visit other relatives, and we were driving home. And I was asleep in the back, or they thought I was asleep in the back seat, because it was late at night. And they were talking about my Uncle Bill and Aunt Minnie, and Uncle Bill had just thrown my cousin Norman, who was 17 at the time, 16 or 17, out of the house. But before he threw him out of the house, he beat him to a pulp. And my parents were talking about this, and I remember my mother asked my father, "Why did Bill do that?" And my father said, "He's a fegala." And in Jewish, that's not such a nice word for being gay. And then my mother said, "What do you mean a fegala?" And my father said, "You know, one of those kind of people." And he went on a little further and started talking about how some people call them queer. And I remember very clearly my father people saying, some people call them queer. My mother finally got it. And she said, "But why do they have to throw them out? What's wrong with that?" That conversation stayed with me forever. And I always wondered whatever happened to Norman, because I really don't remember Norman from that time period of my life. It was 1950s, probably about 1956. I grew up, got involved in the gay rights movement, and many years later I was about ready to be inducted as president of the National Gay and Lesbian Press Association in Los Angeles. And I discovered through a fluke that Norman was living in Long Beach. So the day I was being sworn in as president of the Gay Press Association, I had lunch just before at the Sheraton Universal Studio Hotel with cousin Norman, who came and told me his life story, which started with my Uncle Bill beating him up, him being homeless, him living, taking drugs and getting drunk, fights and constantly being beat up. So after this lunch, where I was in tears, he was in tears, I invited him to come into the auditorium and to watch his cousin be inducted as the president of the Gay Press Association. I still get emotional when I think about it. He watched, and he stood up and cried. And I asked the people who were present, I said, "I've had a very emotional day today, and being sworn in isn't the emotional part. Today, for the first time, I met my cousin Norman." And I told them the story of cousin Norman. And I summed it up by saying, "Cousin Norman is a survivor. He's still here today. Cousin, would you please stand up?" And Norman stood up, and for the first time in his life, he was applauded for being gay. I lost touch with him after that, I must say, and I can't find him today. I assume he was already at least 10 years older than I was, and he's had a very hard life, so I suspect he's not with us anymore. The impact Norman had on me, I think, is the same impact that it has on every gay man, lesbian woman, or trans person. We knew we were different, and we understood society didn't like us. And it said to me is, while my parents might have understood, they didn't completely get it, and they weren't going to tell Uncle Bill he can't do what he did. They might not like it, but they'll keep quiet about it, because that was society norms. So as a 5, 6, 7-year-old child, I heard that gay people shouldn't be talked about, and it wouldn't be proper for me to talk about.